Hello and welcome to another Office Hours capsule. That's right, capsule. This is a small section, and I know, small, of my Office Hours live stream that I do on Thursdays, now starting at 8 p.m. I was going to say 7 my local time, but 8 p.m. Eastern, which is 5 p.m. Pacific. Come by and join us. You can see chat right here is talking with us on twitch.tv/theastropub or youtube.com/theastropublive, where we talk about lore, news. We go through the monthly reports, we go through roadmap roundups, we go through dev stuff. I take questions from the chat and kind of hang out and talk Star Citizen. We sometimes get off track. I'll show off my, 40K collection a little bit here and there, but as I like to show off. So, the stuff that I'm painting and stuff like that. So it's a nice chill session. So come down and join us. And as always, if you enjoy these kinds of content, it does help me out a lot if you like the video, subscribe, and hit that bell icon to be notified when these are released. With that all being said, let's jump into the Squadron 42 monthly report for March of 2023. All right. Before we do, let me also mention this is not a summary. I do sort of do summaries, but I prefer to do these longer videos, mostly because I feel like a lot of this information is important to digest. Summaries are fine, but if you're relying on a summary, you're relying on somebody else's opinion and their own judgment on whether something is important or not. And while that's fine, you lose a lot of context. So that's the reason why I do these longer ones. If you'd like me to do shorter summary versions, I can do that as well. But for now, I do these, and I always need to know, in the comments, let me know if you want to see that sort of thing as well. I'd love to see if this works for you. Now, let's get to this. All right. AI content. AI content worked through March to refine AI behaviors and implement new features. For the engineer, they enhanced various interactions and routines, which involved improving interactive entity positioning in the Idris Stanton, and setting up personal inventory for the ship's engineer. Stanton is the ship. The Idris ship is the name of that ship is the Stanton. All of the Idrises are named after UEE star systems. So theoretically, there's the UEE Magnus, the UEE Sol, the UEE Terra, the UEE Ellis. All of the Idris class ships are named after star systems. The frequency and duration of the engineer's visits to key usables like wall panels and work zones were increased to create a more engaging experience. Advancements were made on the utility behavior, including enabling AI to use trolleys in the Idris elevator. A locker entity was added too, where NPCs can change their outfits. AI now also use a data pad at the start of their shifts to enhance realism of their routines. AI content implemented various leisure activities into the campaign's capital ships and supported an initiative to change console UI screens based on AI animation. The team are currently continuing on clustering NPCs together for a more natural look at tables and seating areas. Security was also added to various game locations to add further depth. I really hope they keep just that one guy who's just always on their own. The one starman who's just chilling in that one, they never meet with anybody. The forever alone starman. That would be more realistic. Just don't keep it too That'd also be an interesting kind of continuing playthrough sort of thing. Improved usables and interactions were added to the hygiene and medical behaviors. For example, the sink usable now uses idle and usable actions for different use cases, whether a mirror is present or not. Additionally, AI can now enter and exit sink usables and seated angle console or with or without a data pad, making medical interactions more realistic. Finally, the janitor behavior, Darj was in chat earlier, so this is his personal update, which was parked in 2021, was brought back. Success. Janitor gameplay is back on the menu, ladies and gentlemen. AI features. AI features continue to work on the Buddy AI mentioned in previous reports. So Buddy AI is a system they've been developing that allows for you to, kind of like Wingman AI, they'll stick with you and do other things, but it's not strictly to Wingman. Last month's tasks included supporting the Buddy leading the player along a path and stopping and waiting for the player to catch up if they get too far ahead. They also improved the following behavior to allow the designers to introduce specific points of interest for the Buddy to move toward. This will be used in cramped situations such as lifts and narrow corridors. It also helps direct the behavior when the Buddy needs to highlight certain views or points of interest. Now, I believe that this system is designed as a procedural system because they want to also put it into Star Citizen. So it is not a bespoke animation or animated, like behavior that you would see for a specific AI. This is a type of kind of AI behavior that they're going to be adding to specific AI as a means of doing it. So it's more procedural. It's not bespoke, as I said before, but it also probably make things a little bit different. So each playthrough may be slightly different in terms of what your Buddy AI does. AI features also worked on two aspects of grenade use. The first of which is getting the AI to throw them. They just want to kill us all, don't they? CIG, anyone who says that Squadron 42 isn't built to be the hardest game in the universe hasn't been paying attention to this. Can you imagine how many, like an AI behavior of throwing grenades down a hallway on a space station? There's no way you could survive that. It's just going to kill everyone. Whew. Okay. Now AI in combat will perform a series of checks to determine if they should throw a grenade based on the idea of flushing a target out from cover. Yeah, they want to kill us all. The grenade path is determined and checked for collisions, and the correct animations are played to cook them and then throw the grenade towards the target. God. Okay. Further work was also done to ensure this is something that the AI can do by stepping out from high cover or standing up from low cover. The second aspect enables the AI to behave appropriately when a grenade is thrown at them. This involves detecting when the grenade has been landed, reacting to it, e.g. turning to face it and notifying the other nearby AI, and then responding to it by moving to a safe position outside of the explosion radius. We actually saw that in the last Star Citizen Live. They showed off that behavior. So if you want to see that in live, I'll put a link up there. You can kind of go check it out there. It's a fantastic thing. The last Star Citizen Live they did, which is really good. Okay. The second aspect enables the AI to behave appropriately when it goes to any throw. Oh, yeah, I already said that. Using the basis of melee attack setup implemented for non-humanoid creatures, aka the Vanduul, the behavior for humanoid melee combat was rapidly prototyped using the same structure. Vanduul are humanoid. Is that an animal attack, maybe? Okay. The benefit is that that any improvements will also improve the non-humanoid character combat. This includes identifying and fixing issues with motion warping, which is which is used to get the AI to lock onto a player while attacking, so it has the possibility of connecting. Related to this, they worked on specialized melee combat behaviors for a specific encounter. This is more of a challenge that requires bespoke animations specific to the situation. For example, player attacks will only be successful following an unsuccessful attack from an enemy. Okay, so that's a little bit more canned animation stuff. That's interesting, though. We know that, for instance, the Screaming Galsons have their own unique melee weapons they use, so that may be that as well. But melee is definitely glorious melee combat is definitely something that we'll see more on. And this is something they've been talking about a lot. The Vanduul have devastating melee combat behaviors, which will require you to try to dodge. Like they will telegraph their attacks that they're coming at you. And like when I was reading it in the past, I'm like, CIG's played Dark Souls. They've been playing a lot of Elden Ring, and so they've wanted to do that. So we're gonna definitely have some of that Elden Ring sort of Dark Soulsborne-esque melee to deal with, because the Vanduul are tanky. They are very tanky creatures, and if they get close to you, you're dead. AI Features also visited a scenario featuring the Vanduul to integrate new tech to better play bespoke animations. Finally, the team completed the functionality groundwork for a key vehicle. Nice. AI Tech. Throughout March, AI Tech made significant improvements to various navigation systems and AI tool features. This included implementing support for overriding agent-type properties for AI navigation mesh generation, which enables the designers to generate meshes inside narrow areas and create more complex levels. For example, NPCs will be able to follow and search for players inside vents. Something that's been talked about in the past. I think this is also from the StarCitizen Monthly Report. So, another related feature is navigation volume cost areas, NVCA, which will impact navigation mesh generation and dynamic path computed during the movement requests. There are both static and dynamic NVCA types. Static NVCAs are shapes/volumes pre-placed by level designers when they want certain areas to be preferred or avoided during pathfinding. In the monthly report, they showed a fire for that sort of thing, but it could be things like radiation, vacuum exposure, or exposure to harsh elements. So, like, you know, AI just will avoid the area that's been breached in a building or something. So, dynamic NVCAs are shapes created at runtime based on player or NPC actions. For example, fire areas that can expand or shrink, or areas featuring obstacles placed by players. So you'll be able to like move things out of the way and slow down an AI as it's chasing you. AI Tech also continued to iterate and polish some otherwise completed features, including NPCs pushing trolleys and NPCs using transit systems and elevators with or without trolleys. Support was also added for hover trolleys. On the AI tool side, the team iterated and added new functionality to the Apollo subsumption tool, which is their tool. They explain it again. It'll be right above me where you can click and check that out. But that is the tool that they built internally to. They explained it. I don't really fully understand it. The idea being that the original subsumption tool was far too generic, and they needed something that was much more specific for their tasks. And so they developed the Apollo subsumption tool specifically for them. Some of the new functionality includes being able to reference engine component tags as part of the tag selector variable. They also moved the graph map to its own tab, added icons to the outline tab for easier viewing, and added a prompt for unsafe changes. For the usable coordinator, the team continued with quality of life improvements and updated UI functionality. AI Tech also completed a pass on the recent idle system improvements. Now they can correctly mark up specific movements in idle animations where it's safe to leave. This allows them to maintain the visual quality the animators expect without needing to wait for the idle animation to fully transition into an exit animation. That is something they showed off as well on the Star Citizen Live episode. AI Vehicle Features. The vehicle feature team progressed with combat AI rework. In previous months, they established a strong design for combat AI with new behavior trees for different types of combat. These were implemented in March. This is a very iterative process that involves a lot of playtesting. We've already done playtests of the most critical behaviors, and so far it's looking way better than before. Combat is closer, more engaging, and there is much more movement. We'll be continuing this in the next month. AI Vehicle Features team. Awesome. So this is the vehicle features team. So what we've seen up to this point has been FPS AI behaviors. And I think what they're doing is they're trying to take that behavior that you would see in the AI on FPS and then translate that experience over to the vehicle. So it's a similar experience. So you're not like, it's not a completely alien experience. The team also supported gas clouds. AI ships are now able to detect that they've entered a gas cloud accidentally and prioritize getting out. However, certain alien ships have the ability to freely enter gas clouds, which will be built into their behaviors. I'm guessing gas clouds will have some sort of negative effect on ships, possibly like areas that will weaken shields or sensors or something like that, which they've talked about in the past. So, animation. In March, Animation worked on AI grenade throwing, healing between AI characters, and the Titan mechanized platform. Second mention of the Titan, baby! They also progressed with various background character life animations and activities, including NPCs moving crates and boxes and entering swivel chairs. Work was also done on NPCs attacking the player with knives and melee attacks and takedowns. Glorious melee combat. The medical behavior and players' prone movement were further developed too. They mentioned that in the past, where like the change in Star Citizen, they mentioned they've changed how player prone works. Right now, like when you go prone and you kind of roll, you can roll onto your back, and then you roll back onto your side, and you have to kind of roll back and forth. They've changed the pivot position for the roll to, I think, the hips now, because it's based off of the EVA movement animations they've done, so it's a little bit different. Ongoing fauna work continued. Animation delivered blackouts for an alien creature and will shortly move on tasks for a dog. Dogs confirmed. Now, this is a question for the animation team, and I will ask this in Ask a Dev. Can we pet the dog? This is vital information, and your answer will determine if a large percentage of the gamers in the world will actually play your game. Answer correctly, and make sure to choose wisely. Mocap was also shot for various narrative scenes and gameplay elements. On the facial side, the team continued to work through a large amount of new content added to the game by narrative, with a focus on bringing more life to the game. All right. So, this is the section that I explained that I am but a simple pub man. I do not have the ability to turn rocks into replicators. I am not a Starfleet engineer. I cannot disassemble and reassemble a electric car by rote memory. I am not a Covenant engineer. I am, in fact, not able to understand the canticles of the Omnissiah. I am not an engine seer. I do not know what these people are talking about. It is quite literally a different language. Now, most of this is stuff that this was also in the Squad 42 monthly report, or the Star Citizen monthly report, which some people were very graciously explaining in the comments and in the chat when I was doing it last time. So I do know some of this, so I'll try to explain some of this as best I can. But this is effectively a redo. But understand that I don't know a lot of this stuff. So, all right. In March, the physics team worked on the consistent handling of wheeled vehicles between different gravity fields, just making sure that the handling works properly. Additionally, further improvements were made to OBB box pruning. Now, object containers is the shortness of that kind of thing is OBB. That's what OBB stands for. It's the object containers that exist, and object container, you probably heard object container streaming and all that sort of stuff. That is just the zones upon which that have its own authoritative region. So that's the reason why when you fly your ship and you fly upside down in a gravity well, but you're still on the floor of the ship, is because of the object container of the ship is saying that the gravity is still there. It's not taken over by the gravity of the planet yet. So there's a lot of complex stuff about that one, but just understand that that's one of the core building block features of the game. While lock stealing in the geometry intersection code was reworked, data integrity regarding the mass assigned to physical geometry was tightened, and a method was implemented to find the parts of an entity that rope was attached to between sessions. An optional update of the grid space bound parts during reposition was added. This should save significant time during collision detection if thousands of crates attempt to collide with a ship consisting of several thousand parts. That just makes it more efficient for movement and saving states and stuff like that. On the renderer, more code was refactored for Gen 12. Transient constant buffers are now used in more code. For example, SSDO and motion blur. The processing of tessellated objects was improved, so it will no longer execute unnecessarily. A lot of legacy renderer code was removed, deferring, shading, shadow rendering, etc. The support for debug viz of anti-aliasing and shadow mask rendering was added. Improvements to the temporal render mode for atmospheric and volumetric clouds continued. This included improvements to stabilize color neighborhoods for reprojection and transmittance profiles. On the core engine, the remote shader compiler server received a final round of substantial performance improvements. The exception handler was extended to better deal with recently occurring silent crashes. Based on the memory tracking information made available by Alpha 318 PTU, a new custom system allocator to replace Gemalloc was implemented, which significantly reduces observed overallocation and fragmentation. This is currently in test. Furthermore, improvements were made to huge page support. Work on streaming system improvements and the new memory tracking tool continued too. The remainder of time was spent supporting Alpha 318. A lot of the stuff that went to Alpha 318.1 is what they were talking there at the end, and 318.2. Right, features gameplay. Now, before we get started, it's always important to mention that Squadron 42 is broken up into 3 basic features when it comes to gameplay. Unlike Star Citizen, which has multiple different gameplay loops and different gameplay styles, Squadron is designed around 3 core pillars: social, FPS, and ship combat. So they do bleed into each other every so often, but they are the 3 unique parts of the game that they built in terms of like bricks, like you know when you're doing social, you know when you're doing FPS, and you know when you're doing ship combat and ship performance, that kind of stuff. In March, gameplay features implemented multiple user profiles, separated out metadata and global progress, such as achievements, and added in-game option to reload from the last checkpoint. Oh, so we can actually have multiple profiles and multiple save points. Nice. As part of the ongoing cargo crane work, they began implementing a system to remotely control a vehicle without having to sit in its seat and directly pilot it. That sounds like drones. But also, a cargo crane? Cargo crane. That's the first direct reference to cargo cranes. We saw it in concept art for the underground facilities during CitizenCon. A lot of people said, hey, that looks like a mule, but with a crane on it. So, confirmed. But it does seem like the same kind of technology you would use for drones, being able to remotely pilot a vehicle. That's what a drone is. They also spawned old vehicle radar, or swapped out the old vehicle radar and replaced it with a new Starmap, which allows for players to zoom and interact with the same way as viewing it on the MobiGlass. Also for the MobiGlass, personal status, achievements, and homepage apps were implemented alongside some of the homepage widgets, including mission objectives and personal status. An app link hyperlink was also created to give quick access to in-app elements without having to manually navigate to them. All right, cool. So a lot of this stuff seems to be more vehicle-based, though there's some FPS stuff there as well. And a lot of just features in general. That may have been there may be a mission design team or something like that I'm referencing to. I always jump the gun with those sorts of things. Last month, features vehicle. Hey, Xylo. Xylo's in chat. Last month, the vehicle feature team completed space mines, which appear in several areas throughout the campaign. Very nice. They've been talking about that for a bit too. This is deeply integrated with the bombs and missile operator mode in ships, so the feature has not been very complex to complete. We will be working on with level designers to integrate it into various scenarios in the game soon. Vehicle features team. New quantum travel feature, which was enabled game-wide in Squadron 42 last month, received feedback from directors and testers. This was addressed alongside bug fixing to create an overall desired experience. The vehicle features also work closely with VFX to integrate new visual effects for Quantum. In February, the team began working with a new visor UI rendering method. Last month, they began implementing it, complete with augmented reality AR elements such as gun reticles and the HUD elements, like the velocity tape. This new UI is contextual, simplified, and integrates with the new multifunction displays, MFDs, which they've been working on for a very long time, getting MFDs up to date. It seems like the MFDs, the navigation, the Starmap, all of those things are all connected together, and the new HUD are all connected together, all intertwined. They talk about them all the time on top of each other, like as if they're the same thing or they're all part of the same system, which they are, but I mean more integrated than just that. They're talking about it as the same. They're working on it at the same time. They're kind of thinking about it in their brains as they're working through it. This is almost ready to be enabled in-game, which will lead to more feedback and testing from other devs. MFDs also progressed well. Now that their underlying tech is complete, the team began connecting various game systems, including the radar and scanning feature. Radar and scanning is a big one, and we're making some changes to how that system interacts with UI to get all shown in the MFDs. Our goal similarly is to get the new MFD system enabled in game-wide for testing sooner rather than later. The Wingman Commands feature progressed, which allowed players to give orders to supporting pilots, such as attack this target, form up, or defend this target. This feature combines elements of AI, UI, and dialogue, and is nearing completion. It's a classic Chris Roberts thing. It's been around since the first Wing Commander, and we would not have a Chris Roberts game, especially in the spiritual successor to Wing Commander, without that feature, so that's very good. The ongoing radar and scanning tasks progressed too. Last month, vehicle features worked with level design to determine what they need from radar and scanning to make the levels work. So yeah, lots of stuff's doing that. All right, gameplay story. Gameplay story focuses in March, which a focus in March was using the new mocap to build complete maintenance loop for the deck crew. This enables the AI to push mobile ladder into position, use it to climb up on top of a Gladius, and then come down and return to the ladder. This was quite complicated and it took a lot of time to get it right, but the end result was looking very good in game. Gameplay story. Alongside this, they made a number of smaller updates to idols and pose matching along several chapters. Following the resolution of blockers, they finalized a section of scenes in the medbay. This means that characters can now rotate in their chairs and open medical cupboards to interact with props inside. That's going to be a 10-hour loop in-game of someone just doing that for hours and hours and hours of players just doing office chair spins. Xylo apparently said there was a typo and fixed it. Which part of that, Xylo? I will refresh for you real quickly. Just left out a comma? Oh, okay. Have a good one there, Xylo. The team also finalized scenes with a character seamlessly climbing into an Argo ship, grabbing the controls, and flying away. Grand Theft Argo? You got to use that in game now, CIG. It's too good. It's too good. That's got to be the title of that animation, Grand Theft Argo. All right. Graphics and VFX Programming. In March, the graphics team completed a version of mesh generation from spline inputs, which will be used for jump point tunnels. Oh, they're kind of working on that. Various shader improvements were made, including recoloring skin using physically based melanin controls and adding the initial support for customizable makeup and tattoos. Improvements were also made to water reflection, refraction, and fogging. Now, this is pretty much the same stuff we saw in the Squadron 40 or the Star Citizen Monthly Report. But it's important to note that a lot of the stuff, someone said, oh, I don't really want all of this kind of stuff. I want hair. It's like, this is all part of that same system or similar systems. It's all part of the process of doing that. It's just making things a little bit better and making more like look good and all that sort of thing. Work began to unify static and skinned mesh formats, which should lead to a larger draw call reductions on complex meshes. They also started to integrate new logic into each individual streaming system for testing. In addition, the graphics team made various changes to render to texture system, including new culling options that will be required for interior map feature, which is the new map for inside your ship sort of thing. For Vulkan, updates were made to the backend to help visual parity with DX11. Various debug modes were also added to Gen 12 to surpass the functionality of the legacy renderer. Meanwhile, the VFX programming team continued their work on quantum travel and fire. Quantum travel effects now rotate correctly based on the movement direction, and various visual improvements were made based on feedback. For the fire system, the framework for GPU fire particles spawning was added to allow for much greater particle counts. Entities now can now exchange heat with the room they reside within too, which means that you can actually warm up with a fire. There are several ice planets in Odin, so I wouldn't be surprised if there will be survival aspects or survival portions of the game which will require you to survive until rescued or something like that. So you may have a situation where you might be able to light a fire in game and also get yourself from not dying. That's pretty interesting. In addition, the VFX team continued improving their editor, adding the ability to reference effects from each other. They also made improvements to lighting and effects in gas clouds. The Planet Tech team progressed with water, iterating on simulation quality and building a system to manage and combine simulations for water surfaces. Work on asteroid system continued too, with the aim of achieving a much more flexible setup for shaping and distribution. Narrative. The narrative team spent time in March on an in-depth level review of one of the bigger sections of the game, along with a focus on revising the script as needed. They looked at the moment-to-moment flow, ensuring the player knows what they're supposed to do and where they're headed next. While much of this information could be communicated through on-screen prompts and objective markers, if it doesn't align with what the character is experiencing, there could be a narrative dissonance. So our goal is to ensure that information is presented directly as diegetically as possible, so the player and the character's motivation align, allowing them to feel fully immersed. Which means that CIG is not going to put a giant quest marker over a location. You'll be told to go to an area and you're going to have to find diegetically where that location is. That doesn't mean they won't put a giant oversized sign that says engineering that way, but you'll have to see the sign. So, you may have to look up or read, which I know some people have a problem with in gaming. So, but that's going to be what they're doing in the future. As mentioned in last month's report, the narrative team was in the UK to oversee a mocap shoot to capture a wide variety of materials, including dynamic conversations. While there, we also held high-level discussions of the current state of the game's script and finalized plans for polishing the last few remaining sections in coordination with the design team's level flow adjustments. This helped the team begin to accurately schedule the year's upcoming mocap shoots, ensuring they have needed scripts ready in advance. This is also something that should be mentioned. We know that recently Anna Dimitriou, who is the Miss Babbage and SAIC Rowena Dooley of The Advocacy, the voice of those. She's also a content creator on Twitch and YouTube. She was in the studio last month to shoot her parts for Squadron 42. So this is part of that shoot. UI. In March, the UI art team continued concepts for a new vehicle UI style and puzzle screens found across various levels. They're currently prototyping new modular fluff screen system, which will allow them to create environmental screens that AI characters can interact with. Hi, my name is Paul, and I love the lore. Tee-hee. Zylo! I swear to God, that man loves me. They also began work on the new visor and lens visuals and added a visual polish to the level screens following the feature team pass. UI Tech completed work on the underlying systems for AR markers. The new visor and lens are also added to hand over to the feature teams and artists. Finally, they made incremental improvements to the several areas, including text edit boxes, scroll bars, hollow volume interactions, and hyperlinks. Oh. It is what it is. Oh, you got me there, Zyla. You got me there. VFX last month. Someone's gonna be reading this right now who's not like on this stream and be like, "Who the what? That's a weird addition there." VFX. Last month, the VFX team paid particular attention to large-scale space locations, working closely with the art team to provide several effects, including dangerous-looking lighting and debris from asteroid fields. They also continue to clean up placeholder effects across several locations, swapping them out for bespoke versions that better match the environment. We'll see you next month. All right. All right. Well, what did we learn from Squadron 42 Monthly Report? As always, nothing. No, I always say that because I gotta troll Jared somehow. I gotta pass that along. Anyways, what were some of the summaries? Well, we know they're working on asteroids, something they've been mentioned in the past. Hi, my name is Paul, and I love the lore. Teehee. That's an interesting update from the UI team. Hi, Paul. I also love the lore. They're creating a new virtual vehicle AI UI for puzzle screens and like modular fluff systems, so they can like interact with more stuff. They talked about it a couple times. Let's see. The narrative team is doing a bunch of new shoots and stuff like that to dial in some of the parts to really emphasize diegetic stuff. Let's see. Vulcan is being integrated. We've got medbay work. Let's see. Radar and scanning, MFDs. Like the MFD systems are in, plus a lot of stuff has been added. We've got user profiles, global progress, such as achievements. So achievements confirmed. And the like checkpoints. So those are all been added. Cargo crane. First mentioned that it's over a cargo crane in the game. It's pretty big. Lots of work for the engine, especially on Gen 12 and such. For animation, they did an alien creature, and then they'll move on tasks for a dog. So again, CIG. This is the final question is, can we pet the dog, animation team? Your answer will determine a lot of how well your game will do. Let's see. We have new combat AI for ships along the same lines as the combat AI we saw with the FPS teams. More dynamic, more close and upfront, more engaging. We see new ways that AI tech can interact with the environment, avoid obstacles, go through tunnels and such. We saw melee, glorious melee combat is coming in with the AI being able to block or attack, or players having to have different, reactions and stuff like that to melee attacks. The Janitor gameplay is back. We also have engineer improvements for AI and UI consoles for capital ships. So all good. This is a pretty beefy one. There's a lot of new stuff that we haven't heard before. They seem to be really, really dialing in on some of the features. Now, again, no game is produced the same way. So my statement right now could be entirely wrong. But it does seem odd that CIG is working on checkpoints and creating multiple profiles. It may be that that team just has the time. They're waiting for other things to be completed, and so they might as well do it now that they have PES, since the PES is the background for that system. And achievements and in-game collectibles have been mentioned in the past. Those do seem like end of the cycle sort of thing. But again, no game is made the same way. They have different cycles and different things. It could be that just team had the time to produce that concept. So don't take that too hard. But that is a good sign. It does mean that some teams are working more on the sort of polished side, the end. Even the narrative team seems to be mentioning that they're really wrapping up on a lot of these changes to the script. They're really dialing in the script. So a lot of this seems to be Squadron 42 is reaching a stage, maybe not beta, but close to beta, where they've got all of the pieces in the puzzle in place. They just need to tweak it to make it really good. So that's good. Good sign, good news. As always, I want to know your thoughts down below. Do you like what I've been doing here? It always helps me know if I should continue to do these sorts of videos. And make sure, as always, like the video, subscribe, and hit the bell icon, and join us live. Twitch.tv/TheAstroPub, YouTube.com/TheAstroPub live on Thursdays at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. Love to see you here. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black. Say goodbye, chat.